what we term safe sex. Do we think that just because there's some regional crisis for a few months that everyone can all of a sudden shift out down their hormonal activities, the hormonal levels in their bodies, and it's like shifting a car? If you look at like in the ABCs and as promoted in I believe it was Bolivia, no, not Bolivia, Bolivia's South America. It was Botswana, I can't remember, but where they had the ABCs, the abstinence, be faithful, and condoms. The abstinence and be faithful. Those two are principles that, while they may not be abided by everyone, they're principles that do not depend upon the machinations of a whole economic delivery system for staying power, for potency. That is, they don't depend on any kind of an infrastructure because they're organic or behaviorally based. It's controlling the human mechanism. Yet, if you promote those two with the C, with condoms, how's that operationally different than if we went, say to Iran, and we said to them, we don't think you guys should develop nuclear weapons, but if you're going to do it, let us give you the supplies and the know-how to do it without hurting the environment like Russia and the U.S. did to their environments during the Cold War race. If you're going to do it, practice safe nuclear proliferation. Or it's something akin to saying, well, gangs, we don't want you fighting with each other and killing each other, but if you're going to do it, here's the best place to do it. Here's silencer, so you don't bother the rest of society with your warfare. There's just a bit of a conflict between things there. And that's kind of what I see with these aspirations and hopes placed in these delusions, I believe, of forcing. And again, this isn't, I like you a lot, as you've reciprocated, and I'm not at all meaning to. We obviously have very different views. I hope we should change your views, and you probably hope that, but I think we both understand the reality of where things are. But again, I appreciate the dialogue. Now, again, not saying that there's a specific path, that there's a set nature for every single human, but there's these fields of probability, and with my faith, my religious faith, and as an extension of my personal feelings, I have great hopes and aspirations for humanity. I hope you could see these things not as boxes, but as channels, as conduits. Their possibilities can be endless, and their directions infinite. The branches, everything. But if you attempt to leave the confines of the conduits, you hit the realities of physics, of the real world, of the natural world. If you look at, just take cancer for instance. Cancer outcompetes its neighbors, but it does it too well. And like any parasite that's too successful, it quickly takes its success to irrelevancy, because its legacy is the absence or the negation of one. As I brought up with the whole anti-growth, anti-culture, if sex isn't producing a net growth, then it isn't, in the truest words, cultivating. It's against cultivating. It's essentially against culture. It's against society and civilization and its net effects. So this optimistic, overly optimistic, and I think we need optimism, but an overly optimistic view. This overly optimistic view is really what marketers depend on. And so, I'm not just meaning, when I say marketers, just your storefront operators that sell, products and services, your Walmart or, your auto mechanic, but everything from grants to research that are dependent on the way they're marketed, the ideas are sold. to people in positions to make those decisions, or to the general public, people's decisions about where and how and what to seek as far as an education or training, they're dependent on marketing and the way things are portrayed. So, the key, this key of putting, the best scenario forward, this is, look what we could do. It's important to have an optimism, but it's also, not tenable to always do that if your finances are based on the best outcome of your attempted enterprises, and you don't consider where you might fall. You run a really high risk of running into the ground at some point, because a lot of things come up in life and everything that are just not expected. It's the nice thing that marketers have about selling the future is, it's regardless of who's trying to sell it, the future hasn't happened yet. The statement "diamonds are forever," or are they? Who's really going to be around to see if the ring they bought is still there? And really, what does that matter? What do a lot of these things really ultimately matter? But as a society, we're really hooked on these placebos and these ultimately irrelevant marketing, and so it's often this mantra of change that is trumpeted rather than the idea of demonstrable and real improvement. And it's not always going to be as dramatic and exciting and as as readily viewable as awe-inspiring. But I think it goes along the lines of these fundamentals. So I'm going to try to take this even more to the core of what I'm getting at. The speech you put up, I can't remember the doctor's name, I should have written it down in here. He talks about the vital import of addressing the rising generation. He talked about failures, or what will happen if we fail to educate properly. Saying that that's some of the greatest danger, that if the danger is in a system where we're putting up barriers to students' learning, we're making it either not attractive enough or all different things. And so but you look at it, and what is the fundamental unit in which a child's view of the world is created? And it's based again on the family, the mother-child bond. Anyway, to tie this again, do you think we should mess with the scientific theory? Clearly, I believe your answer would be no. Scientific theory is pretty good the way it is. As far as the foundations of it, we don't want to mess with the actual methodology applied to come up with scientific proofs and the progress. But is it then okay to tweak the foundations of society, civilization, culture, and then expect that society, civilization, and culture will survive in any real or meaningful way? If you change scientific theory, you're not really changing science or scientific theory. You're simply leaving it. If you want to call a scientific theory a small box, somebody could call it a small box. And regardless of whether or not it's a small box, what the ends that it brings us to, it doesn't affect that. And I would submit to you that the family, being the foundation of culture, society, and civilization, that you can't say you depart from it. It's your prerogative to say that, but I would submit that to depart from that is to depart from culture, some society and civilization ultimately, and the net effect of things. And even in the net things, to depart from humanity, from that which kind of separates us and makes us unique as humans. Now, I'm not meaning to be harsh here again. It's kind of tough in writing this stuff up because anyway.